Let's be honest with each other for a second. You bought the gardening gloves. You saved the inspiration photos. You promised yourself that this spring would finally be different. And then, real life took over. You watered everything for the first week, got distracted for the next 3, and by the time you wandered back outside, half your garden had quietly thrown in the towel. Sound familiar? Because that used to be my entire gardening story. Wasted money, wasted weekends, and a fresh wave of guilt every time I walked past those depressing flower beds. But here's something nobody bothers to tell beginners, and once I figured it out, everything shifted. A beautiful garden isn't reserved for people who live and breathe horticulture. It's available to anyone who picks the right plants from the start. So today, I'm walking you through 14 perennials that are practically engineered for distracted, overscheduled, occasionally forgetful humans. People who want their yard to look intentional without sacrificing every Saturday to make it happen. Stick with me through plant number 8 especially, because that one genuinely changed how I think about low-maintenance landscaping. All right, let's dig in. We'll start with hostas, because if there's a shaded patch of your yard that's been mocking you for years, this is your answer. Hostas are foliage plants first and foremost, and the leaves do all the heavy lifting visually. You'll find them in deep forest greens, dusty blues, glowing chartreuse, and gorgeous variegated patterns that mix cream and white with green. Some stay tiny, only 6 inches across, while others stretch to 4 feet wide and basically anchor an entire bed by themselves. The reason they're perfect for hands-off gardeners comes down to a few things. They actively prefer shade, so they fill in those dead zones where nothing else will grow. They handle dry spells once they've settled in. And they come back larger and more impressive every single year, with essentially no input from you. Hostas thrive across USDA zones 3 through 9, which covers nearly everyone watching this. If you live in extreme northern or southern zones, just glance at the variety tag, since some cultivars handle temperature swings better than others. Next up, the black-eyed Susan, and I say this with full sincerity, killing this plant takes real effort. You've seen these everywhere, bright golden yellow petals surrounding a dark chocolate brown center, popping up along highways, in meadows, and in cottage gardens across the country. Their ubiquity isn't accidental. They're North American natives, which means they evolved specifically for this climate, without needing your intervention. They tolerate drought, they self-seed, translation, free new plants every year, and they pull in butterflies and bees like a magnet. They flower from the middle of summer straight into autumn, giving you months of return on a single planting. You can deadhead the spent blooms for more flowers, or you can completely ignore them, and they'll still perform. Hardy across zones 3 through 9, they're arguably the most adaptable perennial on this entire list. Number 3 is the coneflower, which you might also see labeled as echinacea. If this one isn't already in your garden, fix that this season. The flowers are tall and daisy-shaped, and breeders have expanded the color range dramatically over the past decade, so you can now find them in classic purple, pink, white, sunset orange, and golden yellow. Coneflowers shrug off heat and drought, accept poor soil without complaint, and feed pollinators consistently throughout a long blooming window. Here's the bonus most people miss. If you skip the fall cleanup and leave the seed heads standing through winter, songbirds will feast on them during the cold months, which gives your yard movement and life when everything else is dormant. You decide how much effort to put in. Deadhead for more flowers, or leave them be and let nature run the show. Coneflowers are hardy in zones 3 through 9 and handle climate extremes on both ends. Daylilies come next, and they've earned their reputation as the workhorse of the perennial world over generations of garden use. The diversity here is borderline absurd. There are over 80,000 registered daylily cultivars, ranging from blazing oranges and soft buttery yellows to deep burgundies, blushing pinks, fiery reds, and intricate bicolors. Whatever your aesthetic, there's a daylily for it. They're also remarkably forgiving. Full sun, partial shade, heavy clay, sandy beach-style soil, slopes, level beds, even containers, daylilies don't really discriminate. They form thick clumps that suppress weeds naturally, and they multiply over time, meaning you can split them every 4 to 5 years and essentially clone your garden for free. One important note for pet owners: daylilies are toxic to cats specifically, not dogs or most other animals, so factor that in if you have outdoor felines. They're hardy from zones 3 through 9, with newer varieties pushing into zone 10. Lavender deserves a place in every low-effort garden, and if you've avoided it because you assume it's fussy, I have good news. Lavender actively rewards neglect. It wants lean, well-drained soil, it does not want fertilizer, it does not want consistently moist roots. The single most reliable way to kill lavender is to love it too much with the watering can. For people who tend to forget about their plants for weeks at a time, this is genuinely the dream perennial. You get those iconic purple flower spikes, intoxicating fragrance, natural mosquito-repelling properties around patios, dried flowers for sachets and cooking, and in milder climates, evergreen structure that carries through winter. The hardiest variety is English lavender, specifically Lavandula angustifolia, which holds up reliably down to zone 5 with proper drainage. Zone 4 and colder, container growing is your best bet, so you can move it to shelter. Alright, we're 5 plants in, and you might be wondering when we get to the truly bulletproof selections, the ones that survive things they shouldn't. That's coming up next, because the plant I'm about to describe has, in my personal experience, never died on anyone I know. Astilbe is the unsung hero of shade gardens, and most beginners completely overlook it. Under mature trees, along north-facing walls, in those frustrating dim corners where flowering plants typically refuse to bloom, Astilbe absolutely flourishes. It produces these tall, feathery flower plumes that look almost like fireworks suspended mid-explosion, in shades of soft pink, deep red, crisp white, dusty purple, and pale lavender. Choose a few different varieties, and you can stack bloom times from early summer well into late summer for months of continuous shade garden color. The one trade-off is that Astilbe wants steady moisture. It's not the drought lover most plants on this list are. But beyond consistent watering, especially during hot stretches, it asks for nothing. Hardy in zones 3 through 8, it's particularly happy in the Pacific Northwest, the Upper Midwest, and the Northeast, where cooler, humid conditions match its preferences naturally. Now, here's the bulletproof one I promised: Sedum, sometimes called stonecrop. This is the plant I genuinely cannot kill, and I've tested that statement accidentally more than once. Sedum comes in 2 main forms. Low-growing creeping types spread between stepping stones, drape over rock walls, and carpet difficult dry spots. Upright types, with Autumn Joy being the most famous, grow knee-high and produce big flat flower clusters that change color throughout the season. Both share the same superpower: their succulence, storing water in fleshy leaves, which makes them virtually drought-proof. Rocky soil, sandy soil, blistering full sun, total neglect for weeks, Sedum genuinely does not register any of it as stress. Autumn Joy specifically puts on a seasonal show that's almost theatrical. Pale pink buds in late summer, deepening to rose at peak bloom, then transitioning to a rich rust bronze that holds its shape through winter snow. Most varieties are hardy in zones 3 through 9, with some creeping types tough enough for zone 2. Perennial Salvia is next, and the distinction matters here. There are annual salvias and perennial salvias, and you specifically want the perennial type. Look for Salvia nemorosa on the label. These plants form compact, upright mounds covered in dense flower spikes in saturated violet blue, deep purple, or rich pink. The first heavy bloom hits in late spring or early summer, and if you trim them back afterward, they reliably push out a second wave in late summer. Pollinators adore salvia, while deer and rabbits leave it alone thanks to the aromatic oils in the leaves. Heat doesn't faze it, drought doesn't faze it, and it actively dislikes being fertilized heavily. The only consistent killer is poor drainage. Give it sun and decent soil structure, and it will thrive for years. Hardy in zones 4 through 9, with a layer of winter mulch recommended in the coldest end of that range. Russian sage is the plant I wish someone had put in my yard a decade earlier. Despite the name, it's not technically a true sage, and it's not actually from Russia. What it is, though, is one of the most architecturally striking, effortlessly elegant plants you can grow. From midsummer through fall, it sends up tall, airy silver-white stems studded with tiny lavender blue flowers that seem to hover in the air around the plant like a soft cloud. It moves beautifully in even light breezes, catches afternoon sunlight in a way that's genuinely breathtaking, and makes everything planted near it look more refined by association. The care requirements border on insulting in their simplicity. Full sun, lean to average soil, yes, lean is actually better here, good drainage, and that's the entire list. It's drought-tolerant, deer-resistant, heat-tolerant, and wind-tolerant. Heavy fertilizing actually hurts it by making it floppy and reducing that signature elegance. It wants to grow tough, a little wild, and it rewards that with 3 to 4 months of breathtaking display. Hardy in zones 4 through 9, with a late fall cutback to about 6 inches recommended in zone 4. Catmint, botanically known as Nepeta, gives you continuous season-long color for nearly zero effort. It forms soft, rounded mounds covered in clouds of small lavender blue flowers, blooming heavily in spring. If you trim it back by roughly a third after that first flush, it reliably reblooms in late summer. There's a relaxed cottage garden quality to catmint that makes any planting look intentionally designed. It handles full sun, accepts partial shade, grows in poor soil, tolerates drought once established, and asks for absolutely no fertilizer. It works beautifully as edging along paths and softens the rigid lines of garden borders. One amusing warning: cats may genuinely roll in it with enthusiasm. This isn't a problem to solve, just something to expect. Hardy in zones 3 through 8 and exceptionally cold tolerant. We're past the halfway point, and I want you to keep going because the remaining plants include 2 ground covers that will functionally eliminate weeding from your weekend routine, and an ornamental grass that adds more drama than nearly anything else here. Yarrow grows itself once you get it in the ground. It has a distinctive look, flat-topped flower clusters sitting above feathery fern-like foliage, in colors ranging from rich red and warm yellow to soft pink, cream, and bright white. The overall effect feels relaxed and naturalistic, very cottage garden in style. The toughness here is almost legendary because Yarrow started as a wildflower, and that origin tells you everything. It tolerates drought, poor fertility, heat, and rough conditions. It self-seeds and gradually fills empty spots without any effort from you. The cut flowers also dry beautifully and hold their color for months indoors, which makes them a favorite for arrangements. One caveat: in extremely rich, heavily amended soil, Yarrow can spread aggressively, so plant it in leaner spots and it stays well behaved. Hardy in zones 3 through 9 and one of the most cold-tolerant options on this entire list. Coreopsis, sometimes called tick seed, produces button-shaped flowers in cheerful golden yellow, with newer varieties offering pink, orange, red, and bicolor options. The bloom season is genuinely extraordinary. Some varieties begin in late spring and refuse to stop flowering until the first hard frost shuts them down in fall. It's exceptionally heat and drought tolerant, and it actively prefers lean soil. Over-fertilizing makes it floppy and reduces flower count, which is the opposite of what you want. It performs beautifully in mass plantings, along borders, and in containers. And many modern varieties are self-cleaning, meaning spent flowers drop on their own without deadheading. Continuous color, almost zero input. Hardy in zones 3 through 9 and one of the best perennials for hot, sunny gardens in the South and Midwest. Liriope, also called lily turf, solves problems other plants can't. It looks like an ornamental grass, but it's actually a flowering perennial. The leaves are dark, strappy, and arching, and they stay attractive across the entire growing season. In late summer, it sends up small spikes of purple or white flowers that are genuinely charming. The real reason to grow Liriope, though, is what it does in difficult spots. Deep shade, full sun, drought, compacted soil, slopes where erosion is constant, dry root-filled zones under mature trees, Liriope handles all of it without complaint. Once established, it forms a mat dense enough to suppress most weeds, and in milder zones it stays evergreen through winter. It's not the flashiest plant on this list, but it might be the most genuinely useful one. Hardy in zones 5 through 10 and especially popular across the southeast and mid-Atlantic. Creeping Phlox delivers more visual impact for less effort than almost anything else I can think of. In spring, it produces such an overwhelming carpet of small flowers in hot pink, magenta, lavender, white, and purple that the foliage essentially disappears under the bloom. It cascades over rocks, spills over retaining walls, and floods slopes with color in a way that looks expensive and time-intensive. After flowering, it transitions into a tidy evergreen mat of needle-like foliage that holds its color year-round, anchors soil on slopes, and continues suppressing weeds. For rock gardens, hillsides, the gaps between stepping stones, or the top of a wall where it can pour over the edge, Creeping Phlox creates an effect that reads as professionally designed. Total annual maintenance? A light trim after blooming. That's the entire job. Hardy in zones 3 through 9. Finally, ornamental grass, and specifically Karl Foerster featherreed grass, which I saved for last on purpose. Karl Foerster grows 4 to 6 feet tall in a clean, upright clump that doesn't flop, doesn't sprawl, and doesn't aggressively spread into neighboring plants. Late spring brings tall, feathery green plumes that catch the light beautifully. By midsummer, they mature into warm gold. By fall, the entire plant glows in a rich bronze gold that looks almost lit from within during low autumn sun. And in winter, it stands. It holds its full structure through cold, snow, and wind, swaying and catching light on clear winter days in a way that's genuinely meditative to watch. This is a true four-season plant, which is rare. It's drought-tolerant once established, handles heat without flinching, doesn't need fertilizer, and never requires staking. The annual maintenance is one hard cutback to about 4 to 6 inches in late winter or early spring before new growth emerges. One haircut a year. That's the entire deal. If you want height, movement, sound, because grass moving in wind has an audio quality that's genuinely calming, and year-round visual interest, Karl Foerster is the most efficient way to get all of those qualities at once. Hardy in zones 4 through 9 and remarkably adaptable across climates. Let me pull this together by use case, because that's how you actually plan a garden. For shaded areas, lean on Hostas, Astilbe, and Liriope. Those 3 will completely transform any dim, difficult corner. For hot sunny spots, build around black-eyed Susan, Sedum, Yarrow, Coreopsis, and Russian sage. They thrive in conditions that stress most other plants. For edges and ground cover, creeping Phlox, Catmint, and Liriope earn their keep. For color, fragrance, and pollinator activity, plant Lavender, Coneflower, Salvia, and Daylilies. For structural drama and visual elegance, Russian sage and Karl Foerster grass do more than anything else on this list to make a yard look intentionally designed. Here's what I really want you to walk away with. You don't need a green thumb. You don't need free weekends. You don't need to memorize Latin names or master soil chemistry before you start. You just need to begin with plants that are working with you instead of against you. Pick 3 from this list, just 3, and plant them this season. Then watch what actually happens. Once you see how little these plants need from you and how much beauty they return in exchange, you'll wonder why you spent so many years trying to grow the wrong things. There's a particular feeling that comes from walking outside on a quiet summer morning, coffee in hand, looking at a yard full of life and color, and realizing you made it happen with far less effort than anyone led you to believe. That feeling is available to you starting this season.